you can't see me because I'm having some tech stuff go on today. So I'm audio only, so bear with me for sure. But yeah, I started camming. I've been a stripper and a sex worker in general, all of it, since I turned 18 in like 2001 or 2000 or something. But I started camming specifically in about 2008. And that's how I discovered FinDom. And for me, it became kind of a natural, almost like a natural thing to kind of apply myself to, and I could fit it into just about any format. Like once I realized what it was and how to do it and what my structure was, I then proceeded to just kind of plug it into everything. So I kind of look at everything through a FinDom lens today. Today I do camming. Obviously I do kind of like all of the P2V kind of hustles, some IRL stuff, but mostly those guys come to me. My forte is really trying to like work on my wording, work on my presentation, work on like marketing angles and stuff, so that that target audience, because it is a niche, it really is a niche demographic in adult, that target audience knows how to find me, and so I have a lot of background in marketing and media, the book trade, publishing. So I feel like I have a good idea of what people are looking at when they look at like an ad or like a listing, a profile, and how to make those words kind of bring the right person in, because this is definitely, a niche market. But I'm excited to talk to you guys about how we are all so complementary,
Cool.
There's so much that we do that overlaps.
Fabulous. All right, Vivian, let's move on to Jada. Are you ready now?
Can you hear me, or is it
still? Yes, so much better.
Okay.
Hey, Jada.
Cool. Hey. So I'm Jada. I've been in sex work, I guess, now for almost 7 years, I think. So I started when I was 19. I did a little bit of kind of cam work for the first month or two, very quickly found that it wasn't really what I was interested in, switched to FemDom. And it's funny because I don't necessarily consider myself a FinDom when it comes to the way I feel about myself, but I would definitely say that. Do you hear an echo?
Yes.
Okay. It's really weird to talk when you hear like a delayed version of yourself. But anyways, I feel like just the way my career has gone, it's gone very FinDom heavy. And I've found a lot of success through financial domination as a whole and in general, even though that's not necessarily what I consider myself.
Fabulous. So, yeah. Thank you. All right. And Miss Princess Cameron, could we learn more about you?
Hello. I think I have a kind of like a similar story to Jada in a way, because I have been in the industry for 7 years, and I started with camming and then kind of found FemDom, and I think that naturally a lot of like the online presence right now is just very FinDom geared. That's kind of what it comes back to. And so I would say that I'm primarily a clip artist. That's what I spend the majority of my time doing. But I would say the majority of my income comes from financial domination. So a little bit about my background.
Fabulous. And now I'm hearing echo on myself. That's awful because I got the worst out of everybody.
Stella, I don't know, but it's coming from your mic. I don't know why.
Is it? Okay,
yeah.
Let me see.
Woo! That's an awful voice to hear twice. Sorry, guys.
You're just breaking the internet, guys.
Exactly
it's
right.
a beautiful voice.
So last but not least, Tara.
Oh!
Yeah, you're last but not least. So I've been in the business, she'll be 30 years, and she's been in it a little bit longer than I have, and my inspiration, mentor. She's now a full-time educator for FemDom. So that's my little bit of introduction for her, and I'll let her finish from there.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, my name is Karen Deanna. I've been a professional lifestyle dominatrix for over 30 years. In the course of that time, I've dominated over 10,000 men. I've trained over 1,000 professional dominatrixes, many of whom are in the top of their field today. And I appeared in over 200, back in the days when people paid for porn. So that's how old I am. I retired from, I think I'm the only person who had a chain of dungeons. I founded the Den of Iniquity. We had dungeons in New York, LA, and Phoenix. Managed 80 dominatrixes at one time. Dominatrixes don't like to be managed, and that's why I retired. My dream of teaching women how to dominate men, and that's exclusively what I do now. I'm not saying that I'm a hoe. I'm always going to be a hoe. So do I still do sessions sometimes? Yeah, sure. But primarily I make my living as an educator, and I consider myself a FemDom evangelist. And financial domination has always sort of been a part of my thing. And sort of like Brittany was saying, when we started doing it, it wasn't called that. There wasn't really a name for it. And so I'm going to bring sort of the old school perspective to it today, talking more about like long-term relationships and big fish.
Big whales. All right. So,
whales.
Exactly, whales. So for those that are kind of new to financial domination, would anybody like to explain what they think financial domination is for our audience today?
Well, it's either Cameron or I guess.
You're talking, Jada. Why don't you run with it?
Okay. Like I said, I don't really consider myself a financial dominatrix. That's just what I've done. So for me, what it's always been is kind of the total power exchange kind of side of things, where I start gaining a relationship with a submissive, and from there I take over different aspects of their life. Usually finances are one of the first to kind of give in. So from there, I guess it's just this constant pushing of the submissive to do things that make me happy, to give to me in ways that I see fit. And in that, there's a lot of things a submissive can do, but I think, we live in a very capitalistic society. So one of the best ways for a submissive to show their adoration, their love, their appreciation, and all of those kinds of things would be through financial servitude.
Would anybody like to add anything to that?
Yeah, is it still echoing when I turn the volume?
No.
Okay, good. Yeah, I did want to add to that. I agree with you, Jada. I think that, money is one of the most universal languages that there is between people, more so than anything else. And it's always been a representation of power, of control. And, it's become a very fetishized feeling for a fin sub and a dominatrix to feel the rush that comes from the adrenaline of giving, the oxytocin that comes from the growth of a bond. And of course, anything that's a rush is going to be fetishized. And so money is just the ultimate sacrifice that a man ultimately can give to a woman, and the taboo of it being for no reason, no sex, nothing other than just like to do it it's a thrill, which makes it a real fetish because it is arousing.
And does anybody else?
Yeah, I was going to sort of say the same thing, so I sort of echo that. But basically, I think the simplest way to explain it is, when you're talking about S&M or domination, you're talking about a power exchange, and someone surrendering their power. And so money, I think, is the most obvious way to do that, them surrendering their power by giving up their money, and I always think of the expression that everything is about sex. Everything is about sex except sex. Sex is about power.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's Mark Twain.
So we've now had our introductions, and we've gone through what FinDom is. So we've got some beginners on here, and they're asking the question, which I would like to say, what kind of advice would you give yourself if you could sit down and talk to yourself at the beginning of your career, or beginning to start doing this particular niche of financial domination? Cameron, you haven't spoke much. Would you like to take
I hate interrupting people, so But what was the question?
She's like thinking, I'll let everybody else talk there. It's fine. What kind of advice would you give yourself if you could sit down and talk to yourself at the beginning of doing the financial domination niche?
I think that the most important thing that I would definitely tell myself, and definitely people who are kind of interested in getting into something like this, is to really just do a lot of exploration. I think that there's so many niches within this niche. I mean, we have such an eclectic group of women here today that do so many different things, which I think is awesome. So there's definitely, as like saturated as it's become, there's definitely a space for everybody here. And so kind of exploring what makes you different and what you're good at. Like I definitely, don't necessarily see myself as a very, like your typical dominatrix or financial dominatrix, but I think that there's definitely, since there's so many more people that are finding this now because of the internet, we have so many more, like such a larger audience, and that there's really, because there's such a larger clientele for this, is as long as you find like who you are and kind of your identity, your brand, exploring that and kind of figuring out what works for you and what you enjoy is really kind of the first step, I would say, in being successful, I suppose, in this market.
Vivian, would you have any? Is everybody else hearing that echo too?
It's off camera this time.
Vivian, would you have anything to add to that?
I'm sorry. Very little out of this. Like the audio is really crackly for me, so I'm not quite sure what Cameron said at the very end. Like, what was the?
I just said, just basically, having exploration to kind of figure out your niche within the niche.
Yes, I was kind of thinking about if a girl is a beginner, like they're looking to find their pay pigs. So what kind of way, like technically, would you start moving forward? Like what kind of platforms, apps, like that different, what would you do if you were a beginner? Where would you sign up? Where would you start? Like putting up your character, that type of thing. Vivian, could you run with that?
That's actually a really great question. It's like, thanks for kind of bringing that up, Cameron, because I plugged into Night Flirt. That was the very first website that I ever got into. So that's the first time I ever came in contact with a lot of FinDom content. And if y'all can remember Night Flirt back in like 2006, 7, 8, you know what I mean? Where it was really fetish heavy and real FinDom heavy. And you had the women charging $50, $60 a minute sometimes on the front page. And so that really gave me a lot of positive reinforcement to just start, So if you think you have an inclination to get into it, build your character, build your persona. I like the idea of starting on a listing and making a FinDom specific listing, a listing site like Night Flirt, a listing site like Cam Models Directory. Those are really good independent outlets for kind of experimenting. And you can look at FinDom as more of an experimental niche in that way. You really want to just be able to kind of go wild and understand that you're not going to make money from it right away exclusively. I have a backup, I've always kind of used my generic listings as a crutch, my kind of hot, sexy, femdom Latina listings as a crutch. And then my femdom explicit listings, I will tend to kind of nurture them, foster them, move customers to them, and strategically make them review them, to boost them, to start to invest in building that traffic. So be patient with your FemDom persona, be patient with your FinDom strategy, because it will work, but you're going to kind of learn from this panel that it's a long game strategy, you know?
Yes, and I keep seeing in the chat individuals talking about whether if you're not a full-on dominatrix, whether you can do this or not. I'm a porn star. I've been doing it forever. You've got two other individuals on here that said that it's not necessarily their main fetish, or sorry, their main niche that they do, but they've developed like that branch of their revenue stream tree. So moving forward, I wanted to talk about, they were saying, okay, this is about, more or less not giving the pay pigs nothing, right? Somebody had mentioned, I think it was Stella, you were talking about that before. And then they're like, but once they pay you, what do you give you? They seem to want something. What do they really want? So I kind of wanted to move into the topic of, ownership, overseeing the spending habits, the budgeting, controlling life decisions, finances, like kind of get into what's going on in there inside of the head of your consumers, the psychological aspect of it, so that you can get in there and start controlling their wallet. So either Stella or Tara can run with that one. Stella, you look like you're about ready to burst, so go for
I
it.
know, I'm like, you're right. This does not come easy. It's just like any other relationship that you have to nurture, and when you have a connection with somebody, you're definitely exchanging something. You're exchanging your time. In a lot of cases, you become close to fin subs because they're supporting your life, so they know more about what you're doing. And one of the pieces of advice I would always say to somebody new is learn how to ask for what you want, or at least know how to put it out there and fish for those types of people who are looking for somebody to take care of, to support, that they appreciate enough to give money to. And what ends up happening is over time that relationship gets stronger. There's more trust built. You can create, contracts, budgets. You can create games that they do in order to better their lives, to be better for you. And it becomes like a real exchange of power, but also growth. And so I don't mean to say that you don't get anything in return. I mean, there's definitely the flyby guys that just want to call up on Night Flirt, have you rinse their wallet, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then they vanish. But in a lot of cases, no, they're repeat. They either relapse every so often, or you have an ongoing relationship that can become very much a lifestyle between a dom and a sub. And however that's defined as individual to them, it's very circumstantial to their arrangement. It doesn't always involve sex. A lot of times it's all about denial for as long as you can, or whatever fetish that you both have consented to being a defined relationship.
Okay, and then I think, Tara, this is a good place for you to segue into one of your specialties of like what you were talking about, is finding the big whales with the big pockets, because everybody that's on here wants the big money. So maybe you can blast some of your wisdom here to all of us. How do we find that big bank account to exploit?
Absolutely. Well, one of the things, mostly I work in real time, and I do what's called freelancing. Like, I didn't know that's what it's called. I found that out recently. So most of my guys, I meet them. Like my biggest fish, I met through a personal ad in New York Magazine. And honestly, it hasn't changed, whether it's a personal ad in New York Magazine, or it's a personal ad on Craigslist, or it's a personal ad on Seeking Arrangement. It's the same thing. So in a way, it's still, you have to learn how to tell, but from reading their personal ad, if they have money, how to spot a guy that has money. In person, it's easier. I always tell people to look at the hands and the feet. The hands and the feet are always the tell. Guys that have money, you know, there are really rich tech guys that have money that will drive around in a beat up old car and wear jeans and t-shirts, you know. But usually the shoes are always expensive. The watch is expensive. The glasses, like those little details, you know. You really want to look for that. And in particular, the hands. One of the things that's really interesting about billionaire hands is when you touch them, they are so soft. I don't know if anyone else has had this experience. You can tell they've never worked a day in their life. Like their hands feel a way that is just from never having worked. That's the old wealth guys, you know. But anyway, so, you know, so you're looking, you know, for those tells, you know. So if you're looking on, you know, somebody's personal ad, like, you know, when you're reading their personal ad, like, do they have expensive hobbies? Do they say, oh, I love, you know, scuba diving off the shore of Antigua, right? You know, do they have pictures of themselves in exotic locations? The guys that pose with expensive cars, I don't bother with them. Those guys are bullshit. You know, they've got a small dick. I mean, they might be, you know, I'm not saying you can't get money out of those guys, but they're small, you know, and they're also, you know, I don't, like, just because someone has money doesn't mean I want their money, you know. And I, you know, getting back to what we were talking about earlier about like what I would do myself, you know, just because these guys give you money doesn't mean that you owe them anything. And that's what's so great about financial domination. But you have to know that and feel that in your heart, you know. When people ask me like how I attract them, it's honestly, it's because I expect it and they feel that from me, you know. Like I'm just used to that. You know, that's the lifestyle I become accustomed to. And when someone doesn't spend money on me, I'm not like, I'm just surprised. Like, I don't understand it. I just have to move on to the next person. I don't know what's happening, but we're not making a connection. Goodbye. You know, but I lost my train of thought. What was I talking? Oh, so getting back to spotting them. Yeah. You know, so it's really stuff like that. Like for New York Magazine, for example, I like to use that example because the personal ads in New York Magazine are $80 a line. So if a guy has a 2-inch long personal ad per week, so if a guy had a 2-inch long personal ad, then he's spending like $1,000 a week to meet somebody. So he's got money. You know, so those are sort of like the different ways that you can kind of tell if they've got money. Also, like the way that they talk and their language.
All right, very good. So I think that brings up another aspect of financial domination, which is your overall presentation, right? You are living this lifestyle and, you know, you have expectations, like you said. Like for me as a porn star, like I heard some other people saying, well, if you're not a dom, well, you can still, if you're somebody that likes your Louis Vuitton and you're going to some nice, well, it's COVID, which we'll talk about that in a hot second. But if you're going to clubs and you're dressing up, you're presenting a certain kind of like lifestyle that they have to support. That's an aspect, I believe, of financial domination is your presentation of being, excuse my French, an expensive bitch. You got expensive taste. Cameron, you look like you're a lady that could speak about this. Why don't you move forward with kind of creating that image?
Is she muted?
Yeah, you're muted, sugar.
Okay, I turned it off because I didn't want it to echo before. Yeah, I would say the branding is definitely super important. You know, presenting yourself as a particular person online is not, you know, I think that's kind of like the foundation of your online presence. And so this really, you know, this is still a business, you're still a professional, so you have to, you know, really treat your online presentation as, you know, your job. And so having you know, a particular way that you are online, whether that is the way you look, if that is, posting things. You know, anytime I go out to an expensive restaurant, I will take a picture of my food so that I post it, brag about it, you know. if I do something, you know, I definitely will take a picture, because I wouldn't say I'm typically that person in my personal life. I'm not the person that takes pictures of my food and, you know, takes pictures of different events and stuff like that. But I definitely make the point to take pictures and to have those posted so that I have, because that's just really marketing for who you are. And if you're presenting yourself as somebody who, yeah, has a lifestyle that should be supported, that's marketing, and that's brings in people who think, oh wow, she's so beautiful and she has such a beautiful life, and so, you know, I want to please this beautiful woman, and so I'm going to give her my money because she is you know, has it and deserves it, kind of thing. So yeah, presentation and keeping your online presentation professional. I've definitely, you know, tweeted something late night and then deleted it in the morning because it's not on brand, or posted a picture and deleted it because it's not on brand. And so it's really about creating that online persona in a way, at least for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you know what? I've also. Ooh,
Oh,
let's
I
see.
had a point, Brittany, if that's cool.
Yes, please.
Cameron, you're echoing.
Am I?
Yeah.
About like off of the aesthetics thing, and especially with this having to do with COVID, just really quickly, a good point of practicing getting into FinDom, like Stella said, is asking for what you want. Do you want a new computer? Do you want new like upgrades to your equipment? Now is like kind of the perfect time for novices to really ask their clients to start supporting them and to start kind of perfecting your technique through filling in. Most of the questions that I'm getting when I'm kind of dialoguing with fellow cam performers or people who are just trying to get into camming, because right now so many sex workers have to transition into online work, is what do I need? What supplies do I need? What kind of technical equipment do I need? These are all a laundry list of things to practice to get clients to start supporting you in. So just kind of keep that in mind. I do that a lot. I like asking for new computers, new phones, new wireless keyboards, new headsets, new, you know, anything that will make doing this job easier. Because if you don't buy me a new headset, dude, how am I supposed to talk to you every day? Like these are all of those things. So practice asking, guys, especially now, do you need to have your phone bill covered so that they can talk to you every day? Practice fostering that kind of dependency through making them, you know, supplement and support your business.
Right.
And I think, Vivian, that's Dylan Aces had asked a question about how do you interact with the pay pick on a first time basis? Any questions you would ask them? And I think, Vivian, that's a perfect answer to that question, is start off with those type of things and then build up. If he's willing to get you one thing, then, you know, kind of keep leveling up. Stella, you had something to say?
Yeah, I mean, that's to me one of the most important lessons I feel like I learned along the way, and I see it time and time again with new girls, especially young girls who we're conditioned to not ask for what we want. You know, you're supposed to be not selfish, and over the years I've learned that these guys can't read our minds, and the only way that they know what to do is if we tell them what to do. And so by having a wish list, and by, you know, I've always felt like ask enough people, the worst thing they can say is no, but somebody will say yes.
Yes.
Always.
So
I wanted to add something real quick.
Oh yes, fabulous, Jada.
Oh.
Okay, so I wanted to add, because I feel like, and I see this a lot on Twitter and a lot of the times with newer people, we kind of get sucked to this whole idea that we're supposed to buy designer brands, luxury cars, we're supposed to do all these things that a lot of us, I mean, some people I'm sure do enjoy, but a lot of us don't care about. Like, I've found that I personally, like, I live my life mostly as a minimalist, so I don't want a lot of stuff. For me, what's exciting is investments. I like playing the stock market. I like buying properties. I like doing things like that. That's what's fun to me. So I don't go with this like, oh, don't you want me to spend all your money on bags? I go with it, no, I'm going to invest this. The money you're sending me is going to get me more money. So I'm creating this empire, like this physical empire with real estate, for example. And I find that a lot of guys enjoy that because they can tell it's genuine to who I am.
Right.
And you don't have to ask for things because you think that that's what's going to look good on Twitter. Ask for things because it's what you want, because it's what's going to bring you happiness. It's what's going to bring you fulfillment. And I think it'll bring the submissives that are willing to give you that.
Oh, I think that's great advice. Okay, so I'm going to move to the next topic, which is ethics in financial domination. So, obviously a lot of times these individuals are married and we're getting into their bank accounts and using their money and all of these different types of things. So I had wanted to just brush upon, some of the ethics of financial domination. Some people are into ruination, home wrecking, blackmail. Everybody's got a different opinion on it. Nobody's right or wrong. It's just what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Who would like to start this part of the conversation?
I just spoke, but I'll talk.
I can talk a little bit about ruination and stuff like that.
I know you're a home wrecker, girlfriend, so go for it.
Yeah, I love doing home wrecking in kind of a tongue-in-cheek way. Like I actually like the whole, just mean-spirited. These guys, they get on the phone, they're getting their out of as much time as they can. They want to bitch about their wives. I just let them and get into it. But yeah, like home wrecking, I don't have a problem with. One thing I won't do is directly contact somebody's wife. I'm not going to bother that woman. If I think a guy is also being malicious and kind of triangulating, using me to get at his wife, I'll shut that down real fast too, and remind him that this is about me and him and what he does for me and nothing more. So just kind of look out for little ticks like that. I feel like that's outside of me being ethical. I'm not going to contact anybody's family. I'm not going to, take from anybody outside of my client. I always try to remind my clients to be ethical themselves. We're not tools for narcissists to use in their weird relationships with other people. And we're not there, to enable bad behavior in somebody's life directly. I tell them all the time, fundamentally, this is for entertainment purposes only. And I'm not responsible for the consequences that they create. And they come back to me when those consequences come around to them, for sure, and then have to make it up with me. So be conscientious of the fact that that's another person, and you don't have to go outside of the boundaries you create with that one person. It's just between you and your client how you play.
Would anybody else like to add on to that? Okay, so in the chat room, now mind you, we've got people from, outside of the United States, so this might not pertain to you, but everybody wants to know, girl, how are you taking the money? What kind of app, what kind of platform? Like everybody wants to know, are you using Cash App? Are you using Venmo? Are you using Night Flirts? Are you using your Zelle? Are you using Skype Private? What is your preferred method to take the money? Stella, you want to answer? Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I have it on mute too, just in case. But yeah, I mean, you just named off a bunch of them. What I like to do is, I work a lot of different angles. And so depending on the type of month I'm trying to have, I will just redirect money in different areas. Like if I'm going for rankings on one site or another, or I'm trying to build up a clientele base on one other site, I push my money that direction for a while to kind of raise up my exposure to that fan base. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, I'm using, other than, PayPal, obviously not. I gave up on them. But Venmo, I have them send tributes through IWC, Night Flirt, Sex Panther, MFC, all of them. So
What does she use? She uses all of them.
all of them. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I use all of
Does anybody use any cryptocurrencies? I know I take Bitcoin myself. Does anybody else?
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, exactly. Obviously, uh, you can use all of them at your own risk. If you're using a platform that's an adult platform, that's always going to be your safest.
Mhm.
Once you start moving into like Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, there's a good chance you could lose your account with any of them. I've heard so far Cash App is pretty good for adult work, but the rest of them, if they find out, you can have it closed. So it's always safest to use the like Sex Panther, Night Flirt, My Free Cam.
Amazon gift card.
Oh,
Mhm.
yes. And then we can get into the gift card aspect of it too. Thank you, Tara. So, another thing I wanted to make sure that we touched on is safety, right? So we want to talk about young FinDoms, manipulation, cash meets trends, that type of thing. Jada, you want to take us off?
Sure. Real quick, I wanted to add, a lot of people complain about how we lose percentages on adult sites and things like that. But I think 80% is better than 0% when someone charges back. But to talk about safety, I think a lot of people jump into this head first and don't realize the implications of not having proper online safety. Simple things that you can do, like just not using the same picture on your vanilla social media, or do as I did, just delete all of your vanilla social media. But if you want to keep both, like don't use the same pictures, don't, just take these extra precautions, because it's really heartbreaking to hear the stories of women being doxxed to their families, women being attacked at cash meets, things like that. And I understand that a lot of us started to survive. A lot of women that are still involved in sex work are doing it to survive. And it sucks when you need the money, so you forego some of those safety things. But if you're at all in a place and that you can even take a few steps back and really think through what's happening and make sure that you're secure your own safety, like do everything you can. Background checks. Like personally, I do real time, but I do it. I don't do it very often. Like I don't do dungeon work, things like that. But with my long-term submissives, I will actually let them come and stay in my house for the weekend and things like that. And I feel safe doing that because I've taken enough steps to feel safe to do that. And there's always going to be risk when you're in any job, not just sex work. I mean, if you're a waitress at a restaurant, I think just as women in this world, we take a lot of risks just walking out at night and things like that. But I think once you're now sexualized and people are constantly viewing you, and when there's the money exchange, especially when you're talking about large amounts of money, I think it increases the fears that come along with it.
Mhm.
I think I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump. I think the most important thing to do, whatever kind of sex work you're doing, is to protect your personal identity, so that these guys don't know your real name, don't know where you live, and personal information about yourself. Like, don't talk if you have kids or family, or anything like that. Anything that they can use later to stalk you. Don't share that kind of personal information. And the best way to protect your private identity, I mean, I usually do a full class on this, so I can't really do it fast, but more or less, before you do any kind of sex work, you should set up a subchapter S or an LLC, and everything should be under that, not under your personal legal name. And if you do that, then it's very hard for them to find you if they're going to try to stalk you.
Okay. Would anybody else have anything to add to the safety? Okay. All right. Well, I wanted to get back to working with our pay pigs, right? So one of the things we were talking about before was kind of your window of opportunity, triggering the art of timing, triggering the spending in your clients, finding magic words. Would anybody like to, Tara, you just spoke, sorry.
No.
Would anybody else like to take off with that one?
Yeah, I can talk about that for a bit. You know, really, there's an art to understanding and reading your guys and knowing when they're turned on and ready to spend and knowing how to trigger them. And there's hot buttons, you know, there's definitely words that you can say like human ATM, pay piggy, fin sub, money fetish, you know, wallet drain, that really do have an effect on their psyche. And by making that connection of spending and arousal, if you can kind of master that, reading your guy and walking him through it, it becomes a really cathartic experience for him. And just knowing how to say those magic words, those that really well timed, like spend, you're gonna spend your fucking money on me now, has a much better effect on them than being like, you know, will you tip me? So it's just, you know, it's an art, definitely, that the more you do it, the better you get. And hopefully, you know, you have great fin subs that you can kind of practice on, because each one is so different, you know. But you meet them on like phones, cams, Skypes, there's just always a way to sort of like gauge where they are. And if they're horny, they're going to spend. That is really like, you want to keep them on that edge of like wanting to just keep pushing that button. So.
I think for me, one of the big things is don't look for the whale, especially online. It's hard. You know, a lot of the guys, they have no face. Don't look for the whale, just find the good paying submissive. And I think that's the better route to getting a lot of money than to constantly be searching for this thing that everyone's searching for. You find the good paying submissive, and then because of those triggers, because of their devotion to you, they end up spending a lot more than you would have made just trying to find that one. But always, I'm a strong believer in the online world of paywalling. So don't waste your time on people that aren't willing to at least part with some money, just to show you that they respect your time, I guess.
And so that's kind of a good segue for the next part. If you're going to be being an online financial dominatrix and you want to make money doing clips for this particular fetish, would anybody have any advice on that?
Repeat that. It started echoing. I don't know if you guys.
You're echoing.
Actually, I couldn't quite hear it.
Okay. So yeah, one more time is if you're interested in being a financial dominatrix and you want to do so through making clips, would anybody have any advice? Like, is Clips for Sale the best place? What type of success have you had as a financial dominatrix and a clip artist? So I know that Cameron, you'd said that you're a clip artiste. Would you like to answer that?
Sure. Yeah, I would say that because I focus primarily on clips, that's where I get the majority of my, FinSub clients. I think that, if somebody is buying, many videos, obviously they're beginning to have that obsession, and you can kind of, maybe focus on those clients. And so for me, I would say that my top site that I focus on is I Want Clips. I get the majority of my clientele there. I don't really do any like outside marketing or anything, but I think that site is just so FemDom focused over sites like Clips for Sale. I would say Clips for Sale is, just like in my experience, it's definitely a lot of fetish content, but it's a lot like larger of a variety of fetish content, whereas I Want Clips is mostly like financial domination kind of focused. And so, if you go look at the top 20, top even 100 artists on I Want Clips, it's primarily people who kind of focus on financial domination versus like other types of clip content. And so I think just because that site kind of caters to that, you're going to get a lot of clientele and traffic there. I mean, Night Flirt also is, a very large financial domination clientele. Personally, I'm not on there too often because I get very bored and fed up with a lot of the people I talk to, and so I'm like, I just don't want to do it. So I just focus my energy on clip making because I enjoy it more. But Night Flirt is definitely still a really huge site. I mean, to this day, huge site for finding, that type of clientele for sure.
And in our chat room, a lot of individuals are asking about AVN stars. I know myself, I'm on there and I've been trying to work it, but I also saw somebody say that they've had issues with them not having a lot of traffic, and that's the same thing that I've been finding. But maybe somebody else has had some success with AVN stars. Has anybody had success yet with AVN stars?
I would just kind of like very quickly just say that a lot of like fan sites like that, like I have an AVN stars, I've made like more money each month there, but I mean, all that clientele is coming from, my other clientele. It's not, none of that's new clientele for me. So I focus my energy on fan clubs. I just kind of batch update to fan clubs like once a month. I just, will upload and schedule content for a month so I don't have to focus on it. And that's just kind of like passive income, It's like, $500 a month. But those people that may not be spending a lot of money there, sometimes by seeing my content and getting more like regular content, it kind of like gets that urge going in them to spend more. And so I do have my clientele who was already my clientele, but being able to see all that content for them really kind of keeps them on that edge and kind of keeps them in that space and that like obsession and everything. And so I do think that fan clubs are important, but I wouldn't say that they're like should be a main focus, I guess.
So I'm also noticing in the chat that a lot of individuals are saying, well, what if I'm not drop dead gorgeous, or if I'm this or that? I know with Night Flirt, nobody's seeing you. It's mostly on the phone. So as long as you
Can I
yes,
talk a little bit about that too?
Vivian, go for it.
So I read a little something about being about being like the fugly girl who makes money. I was always the fugly girl in the strip club making ridiculous money. Like like just tattoos, weird haircut, no real sense, but guys would be in a room with me for hours. So when I say like looks don't really matter, that's like an understatement to me. There's a really strong
Stella.
Yeah, it's more, I mean, I was, basically a dominatrix pimp. So I have a level of understanding of why men see who they see that's a little different. It was never the prettiest girl. Very often the prettiest girl, they never learn how to work it. They don't develop their personalities as much. But it was always, because it's about the connection. Like a lot of people think that sex work is about sex, but it's really not. It's about, a lot of these guys are just lonely, or they don't want to feel shameful about their kink, and they want to feel validated, and if you have that skill, you'll always be able to do that. And so what I used to tell the girls is there's going to always be someone younger, someone prettier, and someone who charge less than you. If that's why they see you, you're not long for this business. So it's really much more about what's here than what's here. Although I'm not saying that doesn't help, but it really isn't the be-all.
right.
And then also I keep on seeing some individuals talk about if BBWs are financial dominatrixes. Absolutely. Yeah. Because they have got all the confidence and fabulosity. So, I mean, really anybody can do this. And I mean, and with ads for free on Night Flirt, you can get started with primarily no income whatsoever at all and jump right into it. And, you know, I think that's another thing that's good about Night Flirt. If it's just a phone call, you're not necessarily having to feel at your best, and kind of just do the phone calls and work your spiel out with different individuals as you kind of figure out like how you're going to move forward with this. So I know we're at 3:53. We're going to get kicked off in like 2 minutes. I would like for all of the panelists just to let everyone know where they can find you, if they've got any further questions, probably like Twitter or something like that. Cameron, would you like to start?
You can find me on Twitter at Worship Cameron, spelled weird, wherever that is. Or on iWent Clips, I guess, on iwentclips.com/Princess Cameron. But if you want to DM, I mean, Twitter, I guess, is kind of good for that.
Thank you, Cameron. Jada?
Okay, so I actually just started a thread right before this, figuring that I would kind of promote that. So on my Twitter, it's at Goddess Jada, Jadah. And I started a thread about like if you have any questions to ask them there, and I'm gonna go through and try to answer all of them. Whether it's FinDom, Femdom, anything that I can answer, I will answer. And other than that, I mainly push iwantgoddessjada.com.
Tara?
Yes, you can find me on all the social media at Tara Indiana, or if you want to find out about my classes or coaching packages, I do coach people in financial domination. My classes can be found at theartoffemaledomination.com, and I'm going to put that in the chat so everybody has it.
Thank you. Stella?
Yep.
Okay, you can find me at Twitter at iwantstella. And then you can also find me at my website, which is Goddess Stella Soul, spelled SOL.com. I'm all over with Instagram, Snapchat, but if you just go there, you can find all that. And I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has about FinDom, Femdom, you know, various fetishes and clips stuff. So yeah, thanks everybody.
And I am DJ Britstar. on Instagram and Twitter. You can find me there. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been a wonderful talk. It's an honor to be with all of you ladies today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Thanks so much, you guys.